Hey friends! I'm Tiffany. Welcome back to my channel. This is a new vlog series that I'm doing on my channel. It's called Misadventures Abroad. Now if you know, I suck terribly at doing vlogs. I think I always come on and talk with you all and say how I want to do more vlogs, and I just don't do them. That is because I suck at thinking of things to talk about. I don't think my life is that interesting on a daily basis. So I was thinking one day, I was just like, wow, I have all of these really neat stories from my travels abroad, my trips abroad, with me and my friend, or with me by myself, or whatever. So if you don't know, I usually go on these trips with my friend John. So our first trip was a summer in Europe, and we kind of did a Euro trip, and that was 2 months, and it was our first ever trip abroad, like the first ever. We had no idea what we were doing. We planned out pretty much most of it. Still, things happened that we didn't expect to happen, and that's okay. It's cool. After going on that first trip, and then after going on subsequent trips afterwards, you kind of learn that these things will happen. Like, anything could happen. Quite literally anything. So many things that I never expected in my life to happen has happened on one of my trips. So I kind of wanted to do a vlog series about it. I'm just like, oh my god, this is something that I can talk about and just kind of share all of our stories. So yeah, so I thought that I would do a vlog series about it, and I'm calling it Misadventures Abroad. So on our first trip with my friend John, our Euro trip 2012, we started out in London. And we started out in London because the flight from New York to London is pretty quick, and it's usually super cheap, and we're just like, yeah, we'll just start in London. It'll kind of be like our foot into some other different place. In my mind, it was sort of to prevent culture shock, and so that's what I want to talk about today in this episode, is culture shock. So the title of this episode, The Bridge That Wasn't, comes from our time in London. It comes from a bridge. I do not know where we were. We met up with a friend of a friend who took us around, and he took us to a bunch of East states. And there was one East state, there was wild bunnies walking around everywhere, and there's like this little pond lake, and it had a bridge, and it looked really cool. We come to find out that the bridge was not actually a bridge. It was just a piece of wood that was carved in the shape of a bridge and put there on the water, so it wasn't actually a bridge, but it looked like a real bridge. But when you get closer and you realize, oh wait, it's not a bridge. So, the bridge that wasn't. I thought it was fitting to name this episode that, in talking about culture shock. So we went to London because we're just like, okay, they speak English, it's kind of similar to New York, it should be a very good transition. For me, it was a good transition. It didn't feel any different than being in New York. Like, the only thing that I would say that was different, like really super different, was the quaintness of London, like the city of London. New York tends to be vertical and really tall and really packed and condensed and like busy. And while London is, it can be busy during like rush hour times and stuff like that, it's not as tall. Um, everything is quaint. It kind of looks like, certain parts of the city, it looks like you're in the suburbs, but you're actually in a city. It has kind of that mixed feel to it, which was really nice. It was a bit more relaxed than I think New York City is. And for me, that was like the only different. I think John had a bit of culture shock, just a little bit, but, and this is what I want to point out, a way that he kind of dealt with it that I noticed on our trip was anytime we went to a different part of the city, he kept relating it back to New York, back to home. So I'll give you an example. We went to Camden Town to see the market there, and I remember we walked from our hostel. So we stood at the Clink, the one by King's Cross Station. So we walked from there to Camden Town, and it was a nice walk. We got to see like a different part of the city that we probably wouldn't have gone to, or had we just taken a train or a bus straight there. I don't know which way we went, but when we came around a corner and we started walking towards the stables markets, they were stables, I think, right? And that whole strip there reminded him of 125th Street here in Harlem. That was the feel of that area. And I remember him saying, wow, this reminds me of 125th Street. And it did. It did to me too. I can see the resemblance between the two places. But I felt like throughout our entire trip, he kind of related certain places to different parts of New York City. And I think that's how he kind of dealt with being somewhere new. And that is what culture shock is, when you're somewhere different from where from your atmosphere, from your environment. And that's how he kind of dealt with it, is kind of finding the similarities between whatever cities that we were in to home. Me, I can see that, especially when I'm traveling with him. I can definitely see when he points out the different relationships, how things are similar from the two different places. But I don't really think that's how I cope with culture shock. So the first trip that I ever took abroad by myself was to Turkey and Greece. And prior to going on this trip, everybody that I know was just like, why? Like, they all asked me, why are you going on this trip? Like, why are you going to these places by yourself? I don't know. I don't know why I was going to, well, I knew why I was going to them because I want to see them, but who knows what compelled me to do it by myself. I, would have preferred someone to come with me, but that wasn't an option for that trip. So I was just like, well, I want to see these places, so I'm just going to go by myself. And for me, I didn't even think about, the fact that I am a young female traveling to these countries by myself. I didn't see anything wrong with that. Apparently, a lot of people who were very concerned about the fact that I was going to these specific countries by myself. And mind you, this was back in 2014, so the world wasn't as bad as it is now, but that was just like a big thing for them. But I will say I had a huge kind of like culture shock moment. And the minute that I got into Turkey, I flew into Istanbul and I arranged a transfer from the airport to the hotel that I was staying at, which was nice because being by myself, I kind of wanted to have that reassurance of just getting to my hotel destination. Turkey is very different and like familiar, and I'll explain why. My initial shock was noticing the differences. What was really most prominent while in the car going to my hotel, you look outside the window and everything, was that there were no women outside in the street, really. The majority were men, and being a young female, I don't know, that played with kind of my psyche a little bit, and I kind of started doubting my decision to come here by myself. Got to the hotel, driver was very nice, the hotel staff was very nice, I checked in, I got to my room, and for whatever reason, I had the biggest panic attack ever. Now, I should kind of disclaimer here and say that I do suffer from anxiety, mostly social anxiety, and so I don't know where it came from. It just exploded and I had a cry on the floor, and it was completely fine. And I mean, in the end, of course, it was completely fine, but I dealt with, I guess, that cultural anxiety, the shock of being in a new place, and I'm just like, holy cow, I don't know where I'm going, I don't know the language. It was just like overwhelming, the whole thing, and I just came out, and that's how I dealt with it. And there was a low point that I was just like sitting on the floor. I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna pack up and I'm gonna go home. Because I thought that, and if you're anything like me, you'll think that too, and it's okay. I just want to, put that out there into the universe. It is okay to think that and to feel those anxieties and that emotion and that overwhelmness. It's okay. Why? Because you will sit there, you will breathe, and you will put everything into perspective. And for me, I was just like, okay, why did I come here? And I made a mental list of why. And I was like, okay, what can I do from that list right now? I think I got there like it was around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just like, I went on Google Maps and just, okay, where is this place? Can I walk there? Luckily for me, my hotel was super central and I was able to basically almost walk anywhere. I'm not a techie person when I travel, so I tend to travel with a limited technology with me. I only had a Wi-Fi enabled device, and that is all the technology I had besides like a point and shoot camera. And once I was out of Wi-Fi range from my hotel, I was on my own in terms of getting around. So in the hotel room, after my little breakdown, I looked up, I think it was the Grand Bazaar, because that's the first place that I end up going to. And I'm like, okay, it's this way. And I left the hotel room and left the hotel. And from my hotel, I turned right. And then I realized that I'm going the wrong way. I turned left and I just walked. And then eventually the Wi-Fi fell and I didn't know where I was. So what did I do? Well, one piece of advice that I can tell you that works almost every time is find the people. Find the people and follow the people, because if you see big groups of people and they're all going in one direction, chances are that there's something special in that one direction and you just follow them. So I found some people. I was a corner and I'm just like, well, I can keep going straight or I can turn left. And so I ended up turning left. I saw people going up this hill and I'm just like, well, they look like people who came here to like see things. And so I went and I walked behind them and I followed them. Eventually I came to like where the trams are in Istanbul. I crossed over the street and just kept walking because there were like little market stalls and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I walked through there, and lo and behold, right in front of me was the little arch that said Grand Bazaar on it, and I made it. And so I found my way, and I felt really accomplished that I was able to make it to something on my list by myself after like just having like complete meltdown. That's basically how I deal with culture shock. I kind of let it consume me, let the emotions out, and then, you know, remember why I'm here, and that my fears, while they're valid, you know, shouldn't take away from why I'm here and the things that I wanted to see and things that I want to do. And I just kind of went out and did it. That's a very big thing, is just to go out and do it. The first times that you do certain things, you know, you will feel like nervous and that anxiety because it's new and you don't know what to expect and you don't know what you're doing, and that's all valid, you know, all those feelings. But once you kind of experienced all of that and you go somewhere new again, it becomes easier to deal with the changings of the different cultures. But yeah, so culture shock. I really hope you enjoy and continue to enjoy this little new mini vlog series about my travels, and I will see you all next time. Bye!